Hello Frank, got your carburetors. We're going to do some cold weather testing. At first, a few handy hints. Once you get the carburetors mounted properly with the spacers and the wave washers in here as limit stops, keep them attached to the intake manifold but loose so that you can then slip the airlock in place on the studs, which I'll put in later on. But you put the airlock in place and then go in and do the final tightening to where the carburetors won't move, and you can pull the airlock off and get underneath there to do the final tightening. But make sure that you can get the airlock off and on, because you can tighten these up and then be out of adjustment enough that the airlock will not go in place. One of the best tools you're going to want to use is a 1/4" drive wobble socket for getting up underneath here. You don't need anything stronger than a 1/4" drive. You're not assembling the Eiffel Tower here, just installing some carburetors. And always stabilize the fuel inlet in the top of the float bolt cover, and then use the other wrench to wrench on the swivel fittings. Otherwise you run the risk of pulling the fuel filter, the fuel inlet fitting out of the threaded float bolt cover, out of the pop metal threads. Let's go over some adjustments. How many that you get to make. This adjustment right here adjusts your choke linkage up and down to help align with the choke cable coming down from the dash. And this is a real Mickey Mouse operation. So as your choke levers are trying to go up in an arc, the cable is pulling up straight, and you got about 3 feet of cable going to the dash. And at the same time you pull on the choke cable, notice that this throttle is going to move right here. Okay, that's part of your cold start, is not only choking the carburetors but actuating the throttle. So your one little knob on the dash, you're pulling a whole bunch of stuff. All this stuff you see right here, the cable plus your throttle linkage. So that's why it's very hard to pull the cable on the dash. So what you can do is you can adjust these to where you can get the best angle of dangle, but in reality the chokes move very easily, and that's one of the things you want to test for it all periodically. As you can see, this is the slave to this carburetor, and it moves very easily. You can see right here, and what you want to do is like maybe partially close it and just flip like this, make sure it's operating properly. This one here has this bigger spring on it, so it's tougher to move, but again, same test. Just want to make sure it's moving freely, but you can see how easy these things move. All right, the other thing you're going to be adjusting is your idle speed, and then your only when the carburetors get warmed up do you do this. You're also going to be adjusting your idle mixture screw. Now these carburetors are on my old engine, which is about 20 some years old and never been rebuilt, so it's really clapped out. But if the carburetors can operate my engine, they'll operate yours. And what you're going to be doing is moving this in and out to get the best possible idle speed. And the way I check that is I use this analog engine analyzer with the RPM on it. Digital doesn't work very well because it bounces all over the place. Another thing you're going to need to know about is your idle jets, the G55 idle jets. Only jets that have a slot on them on the top and a hex. And if your carburetors will rev up, but when you come back to idle they die, it's because one or both of these jets is clogged. They've got a little teeny hole, 0.55 millimeter diameter hole that clogs real easily, so you have to make sure your fuel is filtered very well. I recommend an extra inline filter after the factory filter, but before the fuel pump. And all you have to do is, if you lose idle, you unscrew one or both of these and blow through them, or put a little needle in there to clean out the grit. Sometimes you can't even see the grit that's in there, it's so small. This idle mixture screw over here is a dummy. The carburetor is only idle on the first barrel, and that's the only screw that you're going to be messing with. This one, leave it alone. If you ever have trouble with choking the car and get to have a fast idle, it's because this little screw back here has fallen out, and the adjustment between the screw here and the lever it actuates is 15 thousandths. And I can't imagine anybody doing anything like that. You can't get a feeler gauge in there, so you have to have the carburetor off, and I'll adjust that for you. But that also will vary with your idle adjustment, and possibly with your linkage. Speaking of which, we've got this. Get over here. All right, got this little screw right here, and this is a long screw that, and this is a jam screw that keeps it from moving once you set it in place. And what this does, this is attached to the first barrel, and it actuates on a pin attached to the second barrel, which you can't see it move because it's too difficult to move. But the reason for this thing is this pin right here. It's a threaded screw. What it does is actuates on this pin in the second barrel, and when you've got the carburetors fully open, second barrel's open, and you close the throttle, this screw right here hits that pin and artificially closes the second barrel. And you need to have it to where they will close the second barrel mechanically, but not so tight against this pin that you're starting to actually open the first barrel by using this as your accidental idle speed screw. So you just have to be aware of that. I know that might be confusing, but once you get the carburetors in front of you and see what's going on, it'll make more sense. Let's see, what else? So what we're going to do is we're going to get the engine warmed up, and then we're going to adjust the idle speed and the idle mixture screws and show you how these things work. So right now we're going to do a cold start. Let's see, got the battery. Oh, that's right, got to put this back on here. And the only reason I do this is because during running of the carburetors, this can flop closed. Oh, also, what you're going to want to use to adjust the carburetors is the synchrometer. The BK1 to 35 is the size you need, and right out of the box, this thing fits 190 SL perfectly. And what you can do is use this to measure the airflow. You want to balance the airflow amongst all the cylinders. The second barrels, you want them to be closed as much as possible to prevent airflow going through there, because they don't idle on the second barrel, just on the first barrel. And then on the first barrel, what you want is for the idle flow, or the airflow, to be the same from carburetor to carburetor. Let's see, okay. On camera, okay. Switch on, choke. That's not bad for cold carburetors. Hey, I'll take that. Okay. What we need to do now is to warm these things up. Trying to get some temperature. We'll wait for the thermostat to open. Doesn't take long to warm these up, and you don't have all the heater pipes and the radiator hoses. I got radiator hoses, but you have a lot less plumbing. Thermostat's going to open up pretty soon. There it goes. Okay, now some carburetors are warmed up. Now then, we want to make sure the second barrels are closed. Originally, the factory put out carburetors on the second barrel, which would flow between 2 and 3, and so anything below that is what we're looking for. Get this camera in position. Make sure our second barrel is closed. Alright, so a little bit below 2 there. And over here, 1.5. So that's good. Now what we're going to do is synchronize the first barrels, and you want to do this with the throttle linkage undone, so you're synchronizing each carburetor individually. Obviously, don't allow this one to go over speed or anything. So keep a hold of your linkage. So what we're going to do here is to make sure we're processing the same amount of air. So we're at 4.5 approximately there. 5 right there. So what we're going to do is, can you see that? 5, and this again is 4.5. So let's bring this one down, 5 down to 4.5 approximately, and still about 5, a little bit more. Just backing out the screw. There we go, 4.5. And what we're going to do is going to check our, and at this point you want to you can put your throttle linkage back on. Just make sure that when you snap it in place, nothing changes. The RPM doesn't change. All right. Now I'm going to adjust the idle mixture screw. So what we're going to do, we're going to screw this in and out to get our best RPM, our best idle speed. So what we're going to do is watch on the analog. Okay, so I'm on the high scale, so let's go on the low scale. Use your RPM right here, so we're running about 600 RPM. And what I'm going to do is screw the idle mixture screw in and out, and to get the maximum RPM at idle. And you'll be able to see the gauge, the needle deviate. Screwing this in currently. There you go. Alright, we don't want, now we're going to screw it back out. Starting to degrade, so we're going to screw it back in. Get our best idle speed. Obviously I had already adjusted these, so we were pretty close to begin with, but again you can adjust these on your own engine. 600. Trying to go down a little bit, so we'll go back out. There we go, 600, 625. Through the other mixture screw. You see we're starting to degrade in the RPM. And now we go back the other way. And this just takes like an eighth of a turn or a quarter of a turn total. And then just take your time. Go back the other way. Alright. So we got a good idle. It's actually a little on the low side, but just for fun, let's see how low we can go, which will give you an idea of the quality of the machine work. It's 500, approximately 475. 450, 375, 350, 'That's not bad, 400 RPM. Now let's bounce it back up to where it belongs. I'm using the synchrometer to measure our airflow. We're 5 on the first barrel, 6 on the second. So let's increase the first barrel. 5 3/4, 6. Five 3/4, and then we got about 650 RPM, nothing wrong with that. We're on a high scale. Okay, got some nice carburetors. Try a hot start. I think we got you some really nice carburetors here, Frank. I want to thank you and Joe and Will for your patience, and I appreciate you guys very much. Thank you.